Statesville. This is a true herbal extract with all the medicinal components intact. A product you can trust to be authentic. And since there is no wholesaler, it's at a price you can afford. Try it at Lowry Drug on Hartness Road in Statesville.
Hello everyone, welcome. We are here. It is Thursday, and it's late in April. It's the 25th to be exact. Well, I hope you know what's going on today. The world of sports is about to change path. The NFL first round draft taking place later on tonight. Yes, the draft is here. I'm sorry you won't be able to watch the Panthers make any picks today. Unless they trade into the first round, which is, that's always a possibility. You never know what they got up their sleeves over there in Carolina. David Tepper just kind of does whatever he pleases, it seems. But nonetheless, that NFL draft is today. Round number 1 today. It starts at 7 o'clock with the draft officially beginning at 8. And then tomorrow, rounds 2 to 3 start at 8. And Saturday, rounds 4 through 7, coverage beginning at noon on those. So the NFL draft coming up later on tonight. Lots of quarterbacks at the top of the list. Who's going to go where? Are there going to be trades into the top 3? I'm seeing reports of possible trades that are going to happen, namely the New England Patriots at number 3. They might be a team to keep an eye on to possibly trade back in the draft, give their pick to a team that is incredibly desperate for a first-round pick high up in the draft, where they can get themselves a quarterback. Now, not necessarily talking about the Panthers, because they already have their quarterback. Whether or not we like him or not, it doesn't matter. He is here to stay, at least while he's under contract. So we'll see what goes on in the NFL this year. Man, I'm telling you, this is going to be an interesting draft. There's a lot of quarterbacks at the top of the list. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on today. We also have NHL playoff hockey tonight. Yes, the Carolina Hurricanes are in New York for game number 3 of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're playing the Islanders at 7:30 on ESPN2. So maybe, you could watch the first period of the hockey game and then switch on over to the draft to watch everybody's darling, I guess, Caleb Williams be selected number 1. We also had NBA action last night. More of it coming up today. The MLB moving on. We have some surprises now that we're, about 25 games into the season or so. Dodgers, hello. Are you going to wake up? You spent all this money and you're 4 games above 500? So we'll talk a little bit of baseball, as well as your high school sports, as we always do. We're going to start out with baseball. And there were a few games last night, starting out with Lake Norman. They took on East Rowan. And unfortunately for them, I think their season may have taken a turn for the worse during that game, dropping the game to East Rowan 10-4. The record for Lake Norman now stands at 11-12. They are on a 2-game losing streak, and with the playoffs fast approaching, I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do to make any noise. They have 1 more game this year coming up tomorrow, and then their season's over. We still have other schools playing games into next week, so we're not completely at the end of the line with the playoffs just yet, but we do have lacrosse bracketing coming up. We have women's soccer bracketing, which we are going to talk a little bit of women's soccer a little bit later on, women's high school soccer to be exact. But for Lake Norman and their baseball team, it just hasn't been the year that they wanted. A very streaky season. They had some pretty decent performers this year. Their senior, Carson Cherry, batted 349, almost 350 in 89 plate appearances this year. He had a few home runs on the year, but they just don't have what it takes. It seems the pitching just hasn't been up to snuff this year, and they've fallen below 500. And they're a game above 500 in the conference. So maybe when we come to the playoffs, they'll get a little bit of luck on their side. But I don't know. I just don't know. I don't see it for them. Lake Norman had a really rough year this year. A very streaky team. Mooresville was a very streaky team as well, except they had a streak where they just could not win, losing their first 8 games of the season. First 9 games of the season. But they turned it around a little bit later in the year, playing 500 baseball. Unfortunately, it was just a little too late. They're 6-17 right now on the year, 4-7 in their conference. I don't foresee them making the playoffs, but one more game this year coming up against Lake Norman. It'll be on the road. Maybe they can end their year strong and really end the season for Lake Norman. Statesville High School will be looking for their first win in years coming up tomorrow against North Lincoln. They're obviously not going to be making the playoffs, but trying to get that first win. You have the North Iredell Raiders. North Iredell Raiders at 6-11. They've also, everybody's had a really rough year. It didn't start out promising. It never got any better. And unfortunately for this local school, for the local area with their high school baseball teams, it was not a good year. 6-11 for North Iredell. West Iredell, same thing, 6-11 record. They actually have a few more games in their season playing Hickory, and then they got North Lincoln and East Lincoln next week to finish off their season. And honestly, the best team in the area this year was the South Iredell Vikings. The thing is, they had some streakiness to their season as well. Started out really well, but the second half of the season, they lost a few games in a row. Then they played 500 baseball. Record stands at 12-9, which is pretty good. They're 6-5 in their conference. The thing is, they have one more game remaining this year, and it's tomorrow against Cox Mill High School. And if you've been following along for the past few weeks, you might know that Cox Mill High School is one of the better teams in the state of North Carolina, currently sitting at 23rd in the state. They did go on a couple of game losing streak about a week and a half ago, which is why they dropped so far in the high school ratings. But they were up there for quite a while. Unfortunately, South Iredell is going to run into a good team, and it's going to be paramount that they finish the season strong. It is. We're going to move into high school women's soccer after this. The area is buzzing with soccer right now. Then we might have a little giveaway for you. The NHRA 4Y Nationals this weekend at the ZMAX Dragway. Woo, baby. If you're interested, stay tuned. We're also going to get into some NASCAR talk. Man, oh man, we got Dover coming up this weekend. NHL playoffs, Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be a fun one. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this on the Score.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's
Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back. It is the Scoreboard that you're listening to. We're going to talk some women's soccer here in this segment. High school. Yes, women's high school soccer. It's still going on. We actually have a couple more weeks of soccer before we get into the playoffs. And I've been keeping an eye on the rankings, on everybody in the area, seeing who's doing good. I'll tell you what, we have a few pretty good teams in this area, starting with the NC rankings. Number one in the state right now in women's high school soccer. Providence Day down in Charlotte. They are 17-1-1. That is an incredible record over there. A little bit closer to home here up in Mooresville. You have Pine Lake Prep at 12-1-1. They are having quite the season over there. Huff High School in Cornelius, 14-1-1 as well. Man, they are having a good year. All of these schools in the top 25 in the state. So like I said, there are some decent schools out there, and we're going to keep an eye on it just to make sure that you know what's going on in the local area. So for Pine Lake, a school like that, they won their most recent game, which was last night against Lincoln Charter. They got 3 more this year, 9-1 in their conference, having a wonderful season. Like I said, they are a team that you're going to have to keep an eye on when we get to the playoffs here in a few weeks. I was checking the calendar for high school sports. Man, I'll tell you what, May 1st, the first round of lacrosse playoffs begin. That's next week. I feel like we just started talking about all these sports. So we're going to continue to let you know who's going to be doing good in the high school area once we get to playoffs. Baseball, lacrosse, women's soccer. I know tennis is wrapping up as well. We'll do our best to cover as much as we can here on the Scoreboard. And as I've said, if you know someone or know of a school that's been doing good, or you just want to call in and shout them out, whatever you'd like to do, call me up here at the studio, 844-788-3464. We have the NFL draft coming up later on tonight. I let you know round number 1 is today on ESPN with coverage beginning at 7, the draft beginning at 8 o'clock. Now, you might be disappointed to know that while the draft is on, you probably aren't going to see the Panthers make a selection today. You might be thinking, why? They were the worst team in the NFL. Don't they deserve to pick in the first round? Well, yeah, but they gave their pick away to the Chicago Bears, who everybody expects to pick Caleb Williams with the number 1 pick of the draft. And past that, it's really a battle of quarterbacks for the first few picks, and then wide receivers, an offensive tackle up there, some defense out there as well. But if you're looking to see what the Panthers might do, I honestly don't know what they should do. They kind of need a lot. You know, the team isn't one piece away from making a deep playoff run. No. They have a lot of holes that they need to fill. Honestly, I feel like if they picked anything but a quarterback, they would be doing the right thing. I want to hear from you guys. 844-STUDIO-4. With the NFL draft coming up tonight, what do you want to see the Panthers do? What are you thinking they might do? Do you have somebody that you know in college that, man, you just really hope the Panthers take this player? Let me know. I haven't spent too much time on draft analysis because, well, it's not my specialty. I don't specialize in anything. I just chat about it. But with the draft coming up, I want to know what you guys think. 844-788-3464. I know there's a possibility that we have a trade at the number 3 pick. I have seen that the Patriots are thinking of moving their pick, but if I was putting money on this, and now I'm not saying that I am, and this is in no way, shape, or form gambling advice, I would think the top 3 picks are going to be quarterback, and there's going to be no moves. Caleb Williams, then Jaden Daniels at number 2, and then Drake May probably at number 3. The Vikings are a team to keep an eye on to move up in the draft. The Raiders as well are a team to keep an eye on to move up in the draft. So I want to know what you guys think. Call me up, 844-STUDIO-4. I've been reading some of these mock drafts that are put out by so-called professionals, so-called people who know what they're doing. You really can't take any of that for what it's worth because it's not worth anything. These mock drafts are usually just that, a mock, a guess. And I'm seeing wide receiver for the Panthers. I'm seeing defensive back. I've seen defensive line. And like I said, in my opinion, anywhere they go, it's going to make sense for them because they need quite a bit of players on that team. Now, they did a good job filling some holes in free agency, but still, I don't expect us to take a huge leap forward. And number one, I got to put this out there again because I always do. I'm not going to say that I'm a hater because I am not. I want him to succeed, but I just don't know if Bryce Young is that guy. I just don't. I've always had a problem with Alabama quarterbacks. And that's just my opinion. But we haven't seen much success from them. There are a few successful ones out there now, but generally, Tua, I don't know if you want to call him a successful NFL quarterback just yet. He hasn't won anything. Look at what happened to Mac Jones. Mac Jones was terrible. Just terrible. And then you have Jalen Hurts with Philadelphia. Yeah, they won a Super Bowl, but was it really on his back? They had a team that year. A team. Well, they went to the Super Bowl. Anyway. 844-788-3464. By the way, if you've been listening, I have tickets that I am going to try to give away here to the Z-Max drag strip. I hit my head on the microphone there. I don't know if you saw that. If you saw that, I was just turning off something in the background here. Oh, that was funny. So I got tickets to the Z-Max drag strip, the 4-wide nationals that I'm going to be giving away tickets to. That's going to be a little bit later on in the show. We're going to, actually, I got somebody calling into the studio here. So let's go ahead, see what we got. Maybe we want to talk a little NFL draft here. Caller, you are on the scoreboard. What do you got for me today?
Hey, long-time caller. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Panthers draft pick here.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is we're not going to hear anything out of the Panthers tonight. Would you agree with that take, Mr. Berg?
Yeah. I don't think that we're going to hear any big breaking news is that they've moved up in the draft, especially after how much they gave up to move up last season.
Of course, and they don't have a lot of capital in the way of current players on roster to really move around to get picks either. What's interesting is what they're going to do at 33 and 39, right?
Yes.
As a fan of the team myself, I would say their biggest roster need is at wide receiver, but the thing is, in this particular draft, there's such a deep field of wide receivers. I mean, it seems like trading up for one in round one would be out of the question for the things we just outlined, but they might even be able to address other positions with that 33 and 39 pick and still come in even in the third round and get a pretty high caliber guy at that position.
Yeah. No, I agree. I know that the wide receiver pool this year is very deep. There's a few headlines at the top. Obviously, you got Marvin Harrison Jr. topping that list. But throughout the entire draft, the wide receiver pool is pretty high. And look, for a team that had pretty terrible production from their wide receivers, except for an aging Adam Thielen, that's not a bad place to look to get somebody to jumpstart this offense.
It will be interesting to see how Deontay Johnson factors into everything. Obviously, they traded for him a month or two ago. That's a guy I really like. I think he brings an element to the offense that was really lacking this year in that he can create separation. And I think for whatever receiver they go after, whether it's at that high pick in the second round or later on, they want shiftier guys who can create a little bit of separation, maybe open up the middle of the field a little bit for Bryce, because that was something that was really lacking last year, it seemed like.
Yeah, and you know what? I really think any playmaker that they get on that offense is going to help Bryce a little bit more every single time we get somebody out there, from Deontay Johnson to a wide receiver that we picked this time. My only concern with Deontay Johnson is if he knows who his coach is or not, because apparently that was a problem for him when he went to dinner with him the other day. But I do appreciate the call about the Panthers. I'm running up on a commercial break, so I'm going to have to let you go. But I do appreciate your call. And anybody else that wants to call in and talk Panthers, maybe you have a person you're just dying for it. You're like, hey, Panthers, trade up into the first round pick. Get this guy. It's going to turn everything around. Who knows? Maybe you know more than I do about the draft. We'll be back. More Scoreboard right after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Mostly cloudy skies to greet you on your Friday morning. Temperatures overnight tonight will drop to the low 50s. We'll have a gray day on Friday with mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures only warming to around 65 degrees. We'll even see a
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Scoreboard. I have tickets for you. Yes, you. Here's the deal. I have a 2-pack of tickets to Saturday at the ZMAX Drag Strip, the NHRA 4-wide Nationals. If you call in, you're going to get some tickets. That's as simple as I can make it. 844-788-3464. If you're interested in going to the NHRA 4-wide Nationals, you can give me a call. Let me know you're interested, and I might just be able to make your dreams come true. Ha! That was funny. Anyway, while I wait for you guys to call in for those tickets to the ZMAX Drag Strip this weekend for the NHRA 4-wide Nationals, I want to talk a little bit of NASCAR. Yeah, we're going to start talking a little bit more NASCAR here over the next few weeks because we are in the middle of the good part of the season. We are done with the super speedways for a few weeks, at least until we go back to Daytona. And now we get to go to the actual tracks where we're going to race, starting with Chase Elliott. Did I say starting with Chase Elliott? We're going to hear with Chase Elliott, starting with Dover International Speedway. Let's hear from our buddy Chase Elliott, as I just said we would. Here is what he has to say about how much he pays attention to stage and playoff points now that we're past Talladega.
To me, the best example that I can give myself is our year in 2022, I think it was. Had a really good summer stretch and won a few races and won some stages. And when the playoff thing started, we had I can't remember, it was somewhere in the high 30s, maybe close to 40 points. And we ran horrendous through the last 10 races and made the Final Four, and that was why. So I think that in itself tells you everything you need to know about how important those playoff points are, because it can take a really average final 10 and give you a shot.
And we saw what happened during that 2022 season. He was able to go all the way to the championship and crowned it. Ryan Blaney has found some success recently in Dover. Let's hear from Ryan Blaney as well as what's starting to click for him at Dover.
I feel like Dover's always, at least since I've been on the Cup side of Penske, a struggle racetrack for us, for our cars. Whatever we do as a group just doesn't really suit that place as good. So we've been really trying a lot of things to try to figure out, okay, what can we do different? And I know our group our 3 cars went with a pretty different mindset on each car, each team, to try to figure out, all right, how can we, run better at this racetrack and be more competitive? And our group just kind of hit it, and had a pretty decent day and was able to run in top 5 pretty much the whole day, really all 400 laps around that thing. So hopefully we can take what we learned last year and apply it and be able to string together good runs for all of us.
And we'll see what happens when we get to Dover. That's this coming Sunday. You will be able to listen to that race right here on WSIC, coverage beginning at 1 o'clock, presented by PRN this week. That would be the Performance Racing Network. I have a little bit longer of a clip here from Talladega. I was sent this audio bit. It's a sit down with Chris Buescher. He's made 300 starts now in his NASCAR Cup Series career. Hard to believe. Back when he won his first race, due to Pocono being covered in fog, and now he has 300 Cup starts. Let's hear from Buescher on how surreal that is.
You got to take a step back and take it in sometimes. I was on the stage last week and in Texas outside doing a little fan experience before the race, and I got asked a very similar question and by Kenny Wallace, and I said, you know what, it is kind of neat, Kenny. I said the first autograph trailer or souvenir trailer that I stood in line for to get an autograph was Rusty Wallace's, right here, probably 100 yards from where we were sitting at that moment on a rainy day in Texas. When we would come out there since it's the grand opening, go sit in the aluminum bleachers and watch races. From that point, watching IndyCar, IROC, trucks, Xfinity Cup, all the likes, and thinking back on those days and knowing that I was getting ready to go out on that track for that day to make over 300 starts on the top level of motorsports in the country, that was really cool.
So a big congratulations to Chris Buescher. I really didn't see him becoming a competitive driver ever since he got to RFK Racing. He's really turned it around. And it's a far cry from a few years ago when we saw him flipping down the front stretch at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That was wild, man. 844 Studio 4, that's 844-788-3464. I'm giving away a pack of 2 tickets to the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals at the ZMAX Drag Strip. Call me up. 844-788-3464 if you're interested in going. They're not going to last, and it's coming up fast. So let me hear from you, the listeners, if you'd like to go. We have some things coming up later tonight besides the NFL draft, although I promise you that is going to be the #1 news story today, tomorrow, probably Saturday, probably Sunday, probably for the next couple of weeks. It seems like the NHL and NBA can never get out of the shadow of the NFL when they're doing their draft, which is fine because we will still inform you on what's going on in the world of the NBA and NHL. Starting with NHL hockey. Yesterday we had a few games. The Hurricanes were not in action, but tonight we do have game number 3. The Carolina Hurricanes travel to Long Island, New York to play the New York Islanders. 7:30 start time on that one. Games 1 and 2 were won by the Carolina Hurricanes. Game 1 was pretty easy. Game 2 was weird, man. Carolina outshot the Islanders. And I'm not talking about shot on goal. I'm talking about general shot attempts. Carolina outshot the Islanders by almost 100 shots in that game. They had 110. The Islanders, I think the number was 26. And yet, in the third period of game 2, Carolina found themselves down 2 goals, and they had to dig deep. They got those 2 goals. 9 seconds after they score the game-tying goal, they put in the go-ahead goal on a broken play, and the rest was history. We gain a 2-0 series lead. We go to Long Island. This is one of the few series left in the NHL where the road team has yet to win a game, but that's probably going to change. Now, I've been saying I just don't think that they're going to be the team that's going to beat the Hurricanes. I don't think the Islanders have what it takes. I really, truly believe that we are on a crash course for a New York Ranger Carolina Hurricane round 2 matchup. And that's going to be I would consider that the second heavyweight series if we do get it. Right now we have a heavyweight series going on in the West with the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. Vegas, the defending champs. Dallas, the second best team in the NHL. Vegas won 2 games on the road to start that series. They're up 2-0. Man. It's going to be an interesting NHL playoff. We're going to talk some NBA playoff on the other side of this break, so don't go anywhere. One more segment, and we're still going to be giving away tickets. We'll be back after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Mostly cloudy skies to greet you on your Friday morning. Temperatures overnight tonight will drop to the low 50s. We'll have a gray day on Friday with mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures only warming to around 65 degrees. We'll even see a small rain chance late Friday into early on Saturday. But the good news for the weekend is we're going to clear things out after daybreak on Saturday. Temperatures will warm into the mid-70s. Sunny on Sunday, and we'll push 80 degrees. That's your latest forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Daniel Cruz.
host, Sports Director Joe Berg, on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Final segment. I'm still giving away tickets to the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals over at the Z-Max Dragway. 844-788-3464. That's the phone number. So if you're interested in drag racing, this is the place for you. I'll give you some tickets and you can go enjoy it. You got to wear ear protection, though. Now, I've never been to a drag race before. I don't believe so. Not an NHRA Top Fuel drag race, at least. But from what I've heard, I might need double ear protection, like the ones that you compress, put them in your ears, and then they expand, plus a headset. I don't know. Maybe that's overkill, but I'd rather be able to hear when I leave and do too much than not do enough and be deaf. Then I wouldn't be able to hear the callers, and that would be sad. It'd be really sad. So I'm excited. I will be there this weekend at the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals at the Z-Max Dragway. I'll be there on Sunday. So if you're going to be there, stop by, say hi. I'll wear like a WSIC shirt. I'll try and make it clear to you, the listeners, that if you're there, you can stop by. If you see me, say, hey, I know you. I don't know if anybody do that, but I'm just letting you know I'm going to be there. You should too. 844-788-3464. We have NBA playoffs from last night, as well as more games later on today. I talked a little bit about the grievance that was filed by the Philadelphia 76ers against the New York Knicks. And this isn't like a protest or anything like that. From what I've gathered, a grievance in the NBA is basically saying, hey, this isn't fair. And that's it. Not expecting a result from it or anything like that. And the NBA came out and they admitted that there was a foul at the end of the next 76ers game, too, that should have been called. And if it was called, honestly, the Knicks probably would not have taken a 2-0 series lead. So go through all the leagues, MLB, NHL, MLS, the NBA. Man, the NBA, the National Basketball Association. The NBA came out and admitted that they were wrong and that the referees missed a call. Now, they're not going to go back like IndyCar does 3 days later or a month later and change the result because of it. But what they're going to do is say, hey, that's our bad. That's on us. Let's move on. I don't know if the NFL does anything like that where, remember the pass interference call in the NFC Championship game against the Saints? Man, that should have been called, and it wasn't. (844-788-3464). Like I said, still giving away those tickets if you're interested. Anyway, tonight in the NBA, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers playing the Orlando Magic. That series continuing tonight. The New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers, like I just talked about, they will be playing. And then later on tonight, the 10 o'clock game, Denver Nuggets, LA Lakers. All of these series now turn to the away team's home stadium. So the Sixers, the Lakers, the Magic, all of those teams will be at home for the next two games. And all of those series that I just mentioned are sitting at 2-0 with the home team winning both games. Now, I don't think this is a case where the home team is going to win every game of the series. I think this is more of a case of there's not much parity in the NBA and the better teams are just going to win. You really can't take too much stock in the NBA playoffs nowadays until you get to rounds 2 and 3, honestly. Maybe even just round 3 in the championship games. Because there's so many bad teams. Like the Orlando Magic, they are not a good team. I know they're an up-and-coming team, yeah, but they're just not good. The 76ers, they had a bad year. They're not a good team this year. Somehow last night, the Miami Heat, even though they were barely able to make it into the playoffs, they stole a game from the Boston Celtics, tying that series at 1. The Celtics were far and away the best team in the regular season this year. And I think I mentioned it before the NBA playoffs started. There's just this stigma with picking the Boston Celtics to win in the playoffs because they've had a really good team, a team that should probably be winning a lot of championships for the past few years. They just can't get it done. And losing a game at home to an 8 seed, a team that you should easily be beating, it's not a great look. But the Celtics are still one of the best teams in the NBA, and this is why we play a best of 7 series to see who actually is the better team. I do expect the Celtics to move on, but for the Miami Heat, they're only a few years away from having really good postseason run themselves. You never know. You just got to get hot. The NBA is such a weird game. Basketball is such a weird game with runs. It's a game of runs. Are you going to get out to the early lead? Can you hold the lead? Look, the Lakers, the first half, they were up by 20. They ended up losing game number 2 because they just couldn't stop the runs that the Nuggets were getting. 3 straight trips down the court and you put in a bucket before the Lakers are able to make a field goal. 3 more trips down the court for the Nuggets with a field goal before the Lakers make 1. So that's what happens in the NBA, and it's just ebbs and flows throughout the game. So I wouldn't put it past the Heat to do this, but the Celtics, like I said, they are the better team, and they are going to show that they're the better team, in my opinion. We got a few minutes left here. Going back 1 second to an earlier point, here is what I think is going to happen tonight in the NFL draft. Number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. Obviously, that's going to be the Chicago Bears pick. Number 2, the Washington Commanders. I think they're taking Jaden Daniels. Number 3, I do believe the Patriots are going to stay at 3. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's where the North Carolina boy is going to be taken. Drake May is going to be a New England Patriot, in my opinion. And then we'll see where the quarterbacks land from there. I think the Vikings might be in the mix to trade up. Maybe the Giants with their situation at quarterback. I would hope that the Jets are at least thinking quarterback. Maybe the Rams thinking quarterback is what I've heard. There's a lot of options, and you're going to have quarterbacks at the end of the first round available. You might even have some quarterbacks, some high-profile quarterbacks in the second round of the draft. So we'll see how it shakes out tonight, but that is what's coming up in the NFL draft. We also want to get into this day in sports history. Yes, we like to end the show like this every now and then. There's some things that were going on this day. Yesterday, if you remember, was the day that Eli Manning was drafted by the San Diego Chargers. At the time, they were the San Diego Chargers. And then he said, no. I'm not playing for you. You better trade me. He got traded to the Giants. Rest is history. Well, on this day in 2009, after becoming the first team to go 0-16, the Detroit Lions selected Georgia quarterback Matthew Stafford, number 1 overall. Man, he had a heck of a career in Detroit. He couldn't bring that team over the hump. I'm glad he got a Super Bowl in LA, but it would have been really nice to see him do it in Detroit. Also, on this day in sports history, the NFL moves the goalposts and adopts the sudden death playoffs, which are no more. So on this day, 1974, the NFL moved the goalpost back out of the end zone. Thankfully, I don't know whose bright idea it was to put a goalpost in the middle of the end zone in the first place. What a wild idea that was. And they adopted sudden death playoffs, sudden death playoff overtime. That was on this day in 1974. Let's see, can we squeeze one more in here? I think we can. On this day, 1985, for the second time, Wayne Gretzky scored 7 points in a Stanley Cup game. Every time I read a Wayne Gretzky stat line, it seems fake. Before this season, there were 3 players in NHL history to have 100 assists in a season. Gretzky did it 11 times. It's just unreal. Just unreal. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. I appreciate the listeners, the callers, everything that you guys do here on WSIC, listening to the Scoreboard. I'll be back tomorrow when we'll really be able to talk about what the Panthers might do in the NFL draft. Don't expect them to trade up into round 1. I hope you're not disappointed. I'm telling you right now, they're not going to do it. Have a good night, everyone. You've been listening to the Scoreboard. Until tomorrow, I'll talk to you guys then. Have a good night.